Today on Biblical Bitcoin, we're tackling a controversial question. Should Christians support a Bitcoin standard or a return to a gold standard? Both options would be preferable to the fiat standard we've been living in since 1971. However, in a world of economic uncertainty, it's wise to believe in what you own. Let's begin with Proverbs 26:11. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. This vivid warning from Solomon isn't just about personal habits. It's a divine caution against repeating failed systems. For generations, gold was hailed as sound money, superior to today's fiat chaos, and yes, the gold standard offered stability that fiat has shattered. But it failed us catastrophically, and returning to it would be folly, like the dog revisiting its mess. Instead, as stewards of God's resources, Christians should embrace Bitcoin, the closest earthly echo of truthful, just money. By the end of the video, you will know why gold, though better than fiat, betrayed us through centralization and human corruption. We'll recount its historical pitfalls, including the 1933 gold confiscation and the 1971 Nixon shock, and how abandoning gold unleashed societal decay. Then, we'll build a biblical case for Bitcoin as a decentralized beacon of justice. Let's go. Picture money as one of God's tools for justice. Honest weights and measures, as Deuteronomy 25:15 commands, you shall have a perfect and just weight, a perfect and just measure. Gold, with its scarcity and durability, seemed to fit. From ancient civilizations to the 19th century classical gold standard, it anchored currencies, limiting inflation and fostering trust. Under the U.S. gold standard, formalized in 1900 and refined post-World War II via Bretton Woods, dollars were redeemable for gold at fixed rates. This curbed government excess. You couldn't print endlessly without gold backing. Inflation averaged near zero long term, with prices stable over decades. Compare that to fiat's wild swings? Far better, right? But here's the folly. Gold failed us because it wasn't portable. You can't carry a vault of gold bullion for daily trades. It's heavy and not incredibly divisible. This led to centralization. We trusted banks and politicians to hold the gold and issue paper notes as proxies, IOUs tied to reserves. In theory, honest. In practice, a temptation for corruption. Banks practice fractional reserves lending more notes than gold held, inflating subtly. Politicians manipulated for wars or votes. Trust eroded, echoing Proverbs 20:23. Differing weights are an abomination to the Lord. The breaking point? 1971's Nixon shock. Facing Vietnam War costs, dollar outflows, and gold redemptions by foreign nations, President Nixon temporarily suspended dollar-to-gold convertibility. It was sold as a short fix, but as economist Milton Friedman quipped, nothing is so permanent as a temporary government program. This severed the last tie, unleashing pure fiat, money by decree, inflatable at will. Society crumbled by many metrics after this moment in history. Inflation surged. Pre-1971 averages hovered at around 2 to 3%. Post it, spiked to double digits in the 1970s, 8.7% in 1973, averaging 4 to 5% long-term, eroding the dollar's purchasing power by over 90% since then. Single motherhood rates climbed from about 11% in 1970 to around 28% in 2023, fragmenting families amid economic stress. Depression and suicide rates rose since then, with a 35% increase since 2000. Divorce rates doubled from the 1970s to 1980s and sits around 50% today. Housing? In 1970, a median home was around $23,000 against a $9,000 income, with a ratio of around 2.6. By 2025, median house prices are around $417,000, with an average income of around $75,000, giving us a ratio of 5.5. Way higher. Pricing out families. These aren't coincidences. Fiat's endless printing fuels inequality, debt, and moral decay, as families are chasing vanishing wealth. But 1971 wasn't the first betrayal. Let's rewind to 1933. Amid the Great Depression, with banks failing and deflation gripping the economy, President Franklin D. Roosevelt issued Executive Order 6102 on April 5, 1933. It forbade hoarding of gold coin, bullion, or certificates, requiring citizens to deliver them to the Federal Reserve banks by May 1st at $20.67 per ounce, below market value. Exemptions were tiny, $100 per person, rare coins, or industrial use. Non-compliance? Fines up to $10,000, which was huge back then and would still be today, or 10 years in prison. Why? To devalue the dollar and inflate out of depression. Roosevelt revalued gold to $35 an ounce shortly after, pocketing the difference for the Treasury. This was outright theft from the American population, violating the Eighth Commandment and property rights rooted in Exodus 20:15. Christians, imagine surrendering your savings to the state. It exposed gold's vulnerability. Centralized storage meant governments could seize it. The order stood until 1974, a stark reminder that trusting rulers with your wealth invites folly. As Jeremiah 17:5 warns, "Cursed is the one who trusts in man." Gold's immobility made it a target. We cannot repeat that mistake. So, if gold's folly and fiat's fraud leaves us adrift, what then? Christians ought to adopt the Bitcoin standard because it's the closest thing we have to truth in the monetary space. Truth, as John 8:32 declares, will set you free. Bitcoin embodies honest money, decentralized, verifiable, and just. Imagine if God descended to reform our system. He'd design a money reflecting his character, immutable, equitable, liberating. A system allowing transactions with anyone, anytime, for free, forever, no inflation. A fixed supply of 21 million, like God's unchanging word. Unhackable, secured by proof of work, a global network of energy and math, defying centralized attacks and adhering to the laws of thermodynamics. Personal ownership, you hold private keys so no government can steal, freeze, or confiscate your funds, like in Canada 2022. Decentralized nodes ensure no single point of failure. It's borderless, empowering the poor and persecuted. Bitcoin approximates this divine ideal. Born from the 2008 crisis's ashes, its blockchain is a public ledger of truth. Every transaction is transparent, immutable, without intermediaries. No bailouts, no printing presses. It rewards work and saving, aligning with Proverbs 13:11. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. In volatile times, Bitcoin offers sovereignty. Christians can tithe globally, fund missions securely, or protect against oppression. It's not perfect, no human system is, but in my eyes it's the nearest thing to God's view of just money, correcting fiat's wrongs, and without gold's pitfalls. Gold's portability issue is solved digitally, and centralization has for now been banished. As stewards, we must choose tools advancing the kingdom. Again, Proverbs 26:11 urges us, do not return to gold's vomit. It was better than fiat, but failed through predictable human sin, and it will do it again. The 1933 confiscation and 1971 shock birthed decay and despair through inflation and broken homes. Yet Bitcoin beckons as truthful money, echoing God's design for freedom and justice. As Christians, let's adopt it wisely, study, save, share, seek first his kingdom, using sound money to build it. If this stirred you, like, subscribe, and comment. Would you choose Bitcoin over gold as the standard for the world to move forward? Spread the word, God bless, and until next time on Biblical Bitcoin.